Hello, Dog Nation. I'm Brandon Adams. Welcome into Before the Hedges, presented by Kroger. We've got Dog Nation's recruiting insider, Jeff Sintel, here as well, and we're really glad to have you with us on what is going to be an incredibly busy show for us. We're going to hear later on from four-star linebacker Noah Sewell. We'll also hear from Gabriel Sewell, that's Noah's father, who also shares some thoughts on Georgia, too. So we'll go deep into the relationship with the Dogs and this very impressive linebacker who made a big showing for himself last week at the opening in Frisco, Texas. We'll have an interview that Jeff was able to conduct with five-star linebacker Kendall Milton. That's on the way, and we'll figure out how Milton kind of fits into the picture for Georgia and its top remaining targets for the class of 2020. We'll do all of that, but Jeff, before we get into any of that, there's a little chatter in the forum at forum.dognation.com before the show began. Four-star offensive lineman Andrew Raym recently put out on Twitter that he was ready to shoot his commitment video. We should expect that coming up sometime soon. In fact, here is what Raym said about that on social media. Let's shoot it. Georgia, one of the finalists, along with his in-state school, Oklahoma, and the school that got his last official visit, the University of Michigan. Well, there was some belief, I guess, among some of our forum members that video might be coming today, but as they say in the business press time, that video has not yet come out. What can you tell us about what Georgia fans have been saying about this in the Dog Nation forum, and what can you give us in terms of an indication of what might be happening next?
Yeah, I guess people are kind of wondering, man, Jeff's hacking away at his computer right now. What's actually going on with that right now? I think, Brandon and I had a chat a little bit before the show where we talked about, news on Andrew Raym, finality on Andrew Raym. I think that's what this feels like. I mean, first off, I would not put anything in the recruiting stratosphere past Coach Sam Pittman at Georgia. But this feels like the type of quiet where the team in the red and black might not come out on the win on this one.
So, just to get some clarity here, are we expecting Andrew Raym to make an announcement today? Is that probably true?
Yeah, the video was shot on Monday. The anticipated timeline was either Wednesday or Thursday. Some reports out there have he was ready to drop it earlier today. I know lots of folks in our forum were looking at it at 1 p.m. Eastern. This is the part where it's going to start to sound a little bit like Isaiah Wilson's decision in terms of the drawn-out stuff right there.
Although no one's playing A Christmas Carol on an electric guitar. That's the one thing that does make it different.
Yeah, and I think with this one, there's a whitewater rafting trip. There's maybe a surprise or two around the bend. Georgia, Oklahoma, this is kind of interesting. It would be a recommitment to Oklahoma if he chooses to restore his commitment to the in-state school. I don't think a lot of people are thinking Michigan right now for that decision. This is a young man that Georgia got in really tight and really in this recruiting race pretty rapidly and pretty firmly for Andrew Raym.
But it sounds like you don't think it's going to end up being good news for the Dogs. When you were on Dog Nation Daily on Tuesday, I told you that, to me, I got very skeptical of Raym to Georgia the moment I heard he was even shooting a commitment video. I feel like people still have kind of a bad taste in their mouth about LeBron James going on national TV to basically spike the football against the Cleveland Cavs and saying, I'm taking my talents to South Beach. And I think guys leaving their hometown or their home state since then, one way or another, have been kind of influenced by that. If Raym was leaving Oklahoma to come to Georgia, I don't think he would announce he was doing that via commitment video.
Well, I just look at it differently. As a guy that's been doing a lot of these commitment videos in the past, I think the commitment video is a way that replaces the school announcement, especially if you might be announcing it in front of an auditorium or maybe a literary center, media center full of obviously maybe 70% Oklahoma fans, 20% Oklahoma State fans, something like that. I think with Raym, there was a time where it really seemed like he was going to choose Georgia, and the farther we've gotten out away from that time has given maybe those home fires a little bit to start burning back up.
So we'll obviously follow this throughout the show, including Jamel Major's comment about how if Georgia were to lose out on Andrew Raym, it does obviously help with some of those 2021 names who start to really grow in stature, guys like Amarius Mims, Donovan Jackson, others. We'll actually mention Jackson at least later on in today's show, but that's probably true, Jeff, that if Georgia does lose out on Raym, I don't know that there's an offensive lineman other than Cedric Von Prawn that I would still want Georgia to have for this 2020 class. It probably does get you a little bit more curious about some of those 2021 guys, including a guy that really showed out last week at the opening.
Yeah, here's the thing. I want everybody to really remember this, and maybe remember this part of this program today. Georgia is not at the point where they go, okay, we didn't get Cedric Von Prawn or we didn't get Andrew Raym. Who's the next guy in the class?
Wait, did you just say Georgia's not getting Cedric Von Prawn either?
I just tossed that in there, my friend. I don't think Georgia recruits that way anymore. They don't sit there and go, let's go get the next guy, because that would be going to a player that wasn't a priority, that wasn't a true, these are our guys. I mean, there's a reason why Georgia maybe took a step back in the recruiting of a guy like Cooper Mays, for example, who's now on his way to Tennessee. You just don't go down the line when you've already going to have potentially 3 or 4 for this class. 2021 sets up good for Georgia. That's because every offensive line class will set up well for Georgia with Coach Sam Pittman doing the recruiting there. I just feel that this staff, and this is something I've dropped into the forum a little bit, I feel like this staff is not going to recruit a guy who will not play until 2021 or 2022. And I think when you start going beyond the Akinola Gumbys and the Andrew Rayms and the Cedric Von Prawns to finish out this offensive line class, you're going to get a guy that will sit and wait for a while, and that's not the Georgia way anymore.
We'll obviously keep you up to date on anything happens with Andrew Raym here. Tyler Stanfield also mentioning Chad Lindbergh as maybe another option for Georgia at its offensive line. Jeff's going to have more on Lindbergh later on today's show. For now, though, let's move on and talk about a big name of interest for Georgia fans here on Before the Hedges presented by Kroger. That's 5-star running back Kendall Milton. Milton is on the verge of making his decision. He'll do that before month's end. And Jeff, last week at the opening in Frisco, Texas, you had a chance to talk to Milton. I think of Milton as one of the more fascinating recruits to speak to that we've heard from over the last couple of years, because he seems to be pretty thoughtful. He's incredibly well-spoken. He seems to have a clear plan in place. I think at this point in time, his recruitment, he is clearly, and his dad, to the extent which his dad speaks on behalf of Kendall, they are now choosing to play it pretty coy, keep the cards close to the vest. That's their prerogative here, but that doesn't change the fact that hearing from Milton, to me, is an incredibly interesting thing to do. We're going to get a chance to see this interview in a moment for ourselves. What would you tell us about it before we do see it?
I would say Kendall is a guy that has a lot of perspective. He's got a plan, and it's not to have 190 carries during his freshman year at an SEC school or a Big Ten school. I think Kendall's got a long-range future for his brand and his image, and he wants to make a difference in his community. He wants to help others. He wants to create a brand and a platform where he can kind of impart some help in this community. Now, he wants to be a businessman and he wants to be an entrepreneur, but he got a chance to see what he was all about at the opening, and it was funny. And we'll hear some of that in this video, but he used that moment in those times to kind of look under the hood of all the elite running backs in the 2020 class, and he wants to play with another stud running back, and he got the chance to evaluate all those guys in Texas last week.
So let's look at the video right now. Here's Kendall Milton with Jeff Sintel as a part of Before the Hedges presented by Kroger.
For me, my favorite play to run is the counter play. Has a pulling guard and the center pulls as well, so I have 2 blockers in front of me, and it's kind of a play. If everybody does their job, it's kind of guaranteed for success every time.
Is it the 29th? I know
Yes,
people
sir.
asked you the 29th. Is there any significance to that? Is there any meaning to that?
No, for me, I originally planned on committing on the early signing period, but with the decision for me to commit before the season starts, that was just a date that worked out for me and my family, and it was just the easiest for us all.
Well, so you finished your visits. Did you guys get in front of the coffee table and chop it up, or how did you guys arrive at the decision?
Not yet. Me and my family, for right now, we had a little, brief little talk before, but we made the decision to get real in depth after, the opening. So then I don't have to worry about anything and all that. So we made the decision to wait till after this to get real deep into it.
So you haven't arrived at a decision, or are you like 95?
About 95, yeah.
Are you shuffling between 3? What do you got in your mind?
For me, I have all the schools that have recruited me. They all have, basically equal opportunity. Right now in college football, running backs are kind of light on depth chart. So right now it was equal opportunity, because that's the biggest thing for me is the depth chart. So I would say all the schools right now, they're all kind of even in my mind.
You didn't eventually break it down to 2, which we're not going to hear or anything like that? You didn't?
Yeah, not yet. I haven't really broken it down because we really haven't gone into an in-depth talk. It's been just like light what I like about the schools, what were some concerns and all that.
Was it the same school that you're 95% certain on? Was it the same school you felt was going to be the school before your visits, or did your visits change that?
I would say before the visits, I went in open because I really had no idea where I was going to go, because after my unofficial visits to the school, it kind of was like confused in my mind. So I would say before the officials, I went in open, and then when I got there, I got a lot of answers that I needed.
Which visit to Georgia provided more clarity, the 4-day or 3-day unofficial, or the official visit?
For me, the unofficial is more kind of informative, talk about the program and talk about the academics and everything that goes along with the university. The official, it was kind of more to get the feel around the program, get to see how they run things, get to see how people communicate around the office, how coaches communicate with the players. So I would say there are two totally different visits, and in terms of being informal, the first one's more informal.
Let's discuss this week a little bit. What has been great for you about this week? What are your memories you've already created already?
For me, I would say just the competition. Being able to go with dudes like Tank Bigsby and Sam Adams all week. Those are Marshawn Lloyd. Those are dudes that top-notch dudes, top-notch ability. So it's just been fun being able to compete with some of the top backs in the country and get after it.
I think you've told me you want to come in with another guy, split the load for 3 years.
Yes, sir.
Do you know who that ideal guy would be that you would want to play with yet?
Well, dudes that I've talked to about it have been, I've talked to Marshawn Lloyd about it. I've talked to Tank Bigsby about it. I've talked to Zachary Evans about it.
Those three guys would be if you could choose, right?
Yeah.
I noticed you ran your 40. I think you ran it twice.
Yes, sir.
Again, discuss that process for me. Why'd you want to run it again?
For me, I ran a 4.61, so it was kind of like that, I'm right there, so might as well, give it another shot to get it down again.
What'd you get it to?
4.60.
4.60.
Yeah.
Height and weight, where were you at when they tested you?
I was 6'2", 229.
229.
Yeah.
So you ran it at 229.
And I usually play around 215. So.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
What is your lasting memories, I guess, of the Georgia visit? What stuck with you after everything?
For me, it was the relationships between the players and the coaches, because some programs that I've taken unofficials, you see the coaches, and it's kind of unnatural feel. It's kind of like a forced vibe. But at Georgia, it felt like it was all natural. It felt like they had good relationships, felt like they trusted each other. So, yes, sir.
What sticks out at you from the Alabama visit?
Yeah, Alabama, it would be more of people usually have their own opinions on running backs. The depth chart at Alabama, they usually say, if you go there, you're not going to play until about your junior or senior year. So I had the opportunity to sit down with Coach Saban, Coach Sarkisian, and Coach Huff, and we discussed the depth chart, and they let me know that with their roster right now, Najee planning on going to the league, B-Rob planning on going to the league, there's only one other dude on the depth chart that's ready to go. So they let me know that that'd be a great opportunity, because it's an open depth chart, it's an open opportunity.
LSU, that was your first. Does that feel like 6 years ago now? It's been so long?
It feels like a while, but with all the trips of doing them back to back to back, it kind of makes it a kind of close pack time.
Lasting memory from LSU, what is that?
LSU, my family's from Louisiana, so I had the opportunity to have my uncle come on the visit with me, and it was great for me to see him, sitting in front of Coach O, having those conversations. So I would say, just spending time with family, because that's, the biggest thing to me. So, seeing my family with me on the visit, everybody having a good time.
The Buckeyes in Columbus.
Being able to talk with J.K. Dobbins, he let me know that this spot, he let me know that he will pass the torch to me without a problem, and be confident that I will be able to carry the load, because with him leaving, it's basically a done deal. He's going to the draft if he has the year he's supposed to. So that running back depth chart is wide open. It's a lot of younger guys on the depth chart, so it's an equal opportunity. So.
Was there one of these visits that you would call the best one, or were these all just so close?
Yeah, they were all close, because like I said, between the depth chart, academics, even the life after football, they're all kind of, have similar things. So it's kind of hard at this point to choose between which school, stuck out 100% and, make that choice.
When did Georgia become a real contender for you? Can you remember the moment of the time? Was it when Dell came out? When in your mind did Georgia really crystallize as this could be one of my schools, this could be my school?
For me, I would say it was the first phone call when I got the offer, because I was able to talk to Coach Del McGee, and he basically told me right after the phone call that I am the #1 on their chart for the 2020 class, and I'm their main target. So that was probably, because everybody always tells me go to a school where they need you, not where they want you. So that was something he let me know, that he needs me in the program to be able to carry the reputation, the tradition of RBU that Georgia has.
Let's say you have a cousin here in Texas. They're an 8th grader, they show promise. What have you learned through this process that you would share with somebody else to learn from your experience?
Keep your circle close, because I've come across people that I thought were friends, I thought they were close, but they turn on you in a heartbeat when you do something that they don't like or they don't agree with. So I would say keep your circle close, keep your day ones with you, because those are the people that in the end they're going to be there for you, whether you go to the league, make millions, or dead broke or whatever. Go to be a businessman, they're going to be there for you through it all. So I would say keep your circle close and keep family close.
Really interesting stuff from 5-star running back Kendall Milton along with Jeff Sindell at the opening last week in Frisco, Texas. That's actually part 1 of the interview. Part 2, my understanding is, drops tomorrow at dognation.com and here on the Dog Nation video channels as well. Jeff, any tease you can give us for what we may see from Milton tomorrow on that?
Yeah.
Don't give the store away, of course.
Yeah, I'm going to show just enough to get people appetized, like a good plate there at Marlowe's. I would say he talks in depth about what he likes about Tank Bigsby. He talks in depth about, maybe what his next steps will be like leading up to July the 29th, and what it will be like, and maybe how that he will maybe share the news of his commitment with the world on that day as well. And like we always do here around these parts, this is a little bit of a chance to reflect maybe what Kendall Milton is like outside of this decision that a lot of folks in Dog Nation now define him for.
Sandy Puckett on our Facebook comment section said, 62 years old, never wanted to recruit as bad as I want to see Georgia get Kendall Milton. That's the kind of impression that Milton is making on people with these kinds of interviews.
Wow, that is a great take. Maybe that's one of our better comments of the day, man.
All right, so we'll keep
better comment. We might try and find you something there, sir.
We'll keep the Milton conversation going here and kind of dive into our top targets for the class of 2020. Milton's name has been near the top for a while, has not been the top target. Let's see if that changes here for this week, though, as we get into this discussion. Their top targets for the class of 2020. Number 1 on that list, the 5-star cornerback Keely Ringo from Scottsdale, Arizona. Ringo, it should be pointed out, though, was not in Arizona last week, nor was Keely in Frisco, Texas either. There's some social media evidence that Keely Ringo is spending time in, I guess, his birth state. Is this right? Birth state of Washington. In fact, let me show you a picture on social media of Milton in the Evergreen State. There you see that for your own self there a bit. Why did Keely not go to the opening?
I guess he basically wanted to stand on his rival's performance, I guess, in the 5-star challenge. It wasn't just a good weekend for him to go and compete again right after the rivals 5-star challenge. I mean, he defended his fastest man title with back-to-back efforts, and it's really funny. A story that's circulated around that is Brandon, he runs a 4.36.
At his size, that's really impressive.
And 210. Now, he runs a 10.49, which is already smoking fast, but he runs the first rep, and then everybody's like, draw your own emoji. They're like something like this. And then he goes and runs it again, and he lowers the time from a 4.36, I think, to a 4.35. And there were some folks there that were telling me about it, and like the athletes that were watching it were basically like, are you telling me this man just ran a 4.36 and then lowered it with his next time? Some otherworldly stuff there for Ringo. And Brandon, let's not bury the lead here. Can we flash back to that image of him in his home state of Washington and the old stomping grounds?
Let's see the picture one more time.
Let's look at what he's backpacking in, sir. Look what he brought to backpack in Washington. That is if you see the Bulldogs across the top strap, he is rocking a Georgia G all the way up there in Washington.
Okay.
And I wanted to make sure that you didn't miss that.
All right, well, there you go. A little Bulldog backpack for Keely Ringo up in the state of Washington. That's a nice thing to see. Leon Hutchinson, our Facebook comment section, disagrees with Ringo's placement at number 1 on the list ahead of a guy like Kendall Milton. But my guess is Milton will be here at number 2, where he's been in the past. Let me indeed see if I'm right about this. Number 2 is the 5-star running back, Kendall Milton from Clovis, California. His dad, Chris Milton, who we've quoted before on Before the Hedges presented by Kroger, was also at the opening last week in Frisco, Texas, showing off some video of Milton hard at work. We'll give you a chance to see this video. And Jeff, as we show this to folks, I'll also give you a chance to talk about what it was that you saw from workouts like these from Milton last week, making somebody miss, getting a little spin on the football there. You certainly like to see that.
No, here's what you look to see. Let's run that back turbo one more time on that tweet. He is making an elite dude miss. That was Noah Sewell.
Okay.
He made miss right there. And Noah told me
I'm
about.
not trying to put people on blast here.
No, this is what I'm saying. I run that back just means we need to play it back.
No, I'm saying, but I mean, I was content just to give Milton credit. I'm not looking to call anybody out for missing a rep.
No, this is part of the story, Brandon. Noah said that the fire in his belly got stoked up another four burners when Kendall got him.
Okay, good.
And it was basically like, I think Noah told me that Kendall was one of those guys that broke him. And man, when you saw Noah go through the cat and mouse drill, he ran the table. He got everybody. He did not lose a rep in the cat and mouse drill. He was coming over onto his side, onto the running back side of the field and being an aggressive player, stalking his prey, so to speak. And I want to add a little bit more insight. You know, it's a good point about why Ringo's 1 and Milton's 2. Well, this is for the clear fact of Zamir White will still be in town next season when Kendall Milton is. I think Keely Ringo is the type of guy that can take a dude's job immediately, even at the University of Georgia and even in that secondary. But I will say the gap is closed in my mind, and that's because Kendall ran a 4.7 time, I believe, for the opening regional, and he did so at about 220 pounds. Well, he ran it again at the opening at 229, maybe 10 pounds more, 15 pounds more than he played at as a junior, and he ran a 4.60. For me, that elevated that speed, that home run threat into another arena for me. And when you got to look at Milton, you got to compare him to Chubb, the big thunderback. And remember, mind you, Chubb was a guy that was running 4.4s, 4.5s at all these events at the same age.
On YouTube, J.W. Shorts checking in from Northern California. That's similar to where Kendall Milton's located. He says that those guys from up there in that part of the country are about to show Georgia what it's all about when he's predicting Milton gets on campus. We'll certainly pay attention to that and see if Kendall indeed does choose UGA here when he makes his college decision, really coming up soon. Number 3 on our list, top targets of the class of 2020. On Before the Hedges presented by Kroger. How about the 5-star athlete, Rick Gilbert, who we obviously think of around here as a tight end. Tennessee has erroneously told him he can go there and be a wide receiver.
Brendan, it's all about labeling and packaging here. I think next week I'm going to take away the TE designation to Mr. Gilbert, and I'm going to make it an FE for flex in, because that's what Georgia's recruiting these boys to be. Flex ends.
Let me just say this about Gilbert really quick. The one thing that kind of stands out to me is our buddy Michael Carvel saw him at a camp in Georgia not too long ago. You saw him in Frisco, Texas. You think about his Friday night games playing for Marietta High School here in the Atlanta area. The one thing about Gilbert is he catches a lot of balls. In 7-on-7 situations, in camp situations, in 11-on-11 situations. Sometimes these really impressive, sort of freakish athletes can also kind of be projects a bit too, and they have to be taught the position. When it comes to hauling in catches, Gilbert does seem to do that at every level. From that standpoint, he seems to be something of a finished product.
Simply put, Gilbert catches the ball, even the acrobatic catches, and runs routes as well as any receiver, I feel, maybe outside of Julian Fleming and maybe even a G. Scott Jr. in this class. And he's a guy, he's used to getting a high work rate. And I don't know if we've got the graphic built yet, but we'd like to share, not the one-handed catch where he went and goes and does something otherworldly like that, but the testing numbers for all those tight ends and flex ends at the opening. The gentleman that run that event every year said this was simply the best group of tight ends that has ever camped at the opening. And if we have those testing numbers from Student Sports, you'll see why.
That's exactly right. Gene King on Facebook says, BA, just tell these folks watching that Milton, Ringo, and Gilbert are silent commits. So Gene King feeling pretty confident about those top 3 names.
Gene King, he's had something in his coffee this morning or this afternoon.
All right, let's pick up the pace here a little bit with some of these other names. Number 4 on our top targets list for the class of 2020, just after Rick Gilbert. It's time, look at the big mover here. We're going to hear from Sewell later on in the show, but 4-star linebacker Noah Sewell from Orem, Utah. Sounds like you were impressed with the size and speed combination that Noah put on display last week.
Yeah, this is a huge mover for me on this board. I don't know if I've ever came out of any one of these camp settings and been more impressed with the full range of the ability here for Noah Sewell. I like watching him in between plays. I like watching him after plays. I like watching him adjust to when he's got beat. And this part, Brandon, here blows my mind. This is a 7-on-7 ballet. And a 266-pound inside linebacker, or even a 215-pound inside linebacker like an Owen Popo, this is not their thing. They're built. These things are built for slot receivers to make them look bad.
Yeah.
And Noah Sewell was dynamic in this event. He is a very rare prospect, and simply put, I don't know if I've ever covered a guy. I don't know if Georgia's ever recruited a guy quite like him before.
Name number 5 on our list, top targets for the class of 2020. Just after the fast riser Noah Sewell, we see Jordan Birch, the 5-star defensive lineman out of Columbia, South Carolina. Any news update to give us on Birch right now?
Mr. Zipped Up Lip emoji right here. I think it will be very interesting what happens to him the last week of the open period. You're going to have a break here in mid-July to the end of July where there's going to be an open period for visits. Georgia's going to want to bring in a lot of top targets, the top targets that week, kind of like the same flavor of the West End reveal of a year ago, West End Zone reveal of a year ago. And if Jordan Birch shows up at Georgia, you're going to get excited about that.
Oh, yeah. Now I'll tell you this. Much the same way, I don't think that someone leaves his home state in a noisy fashion. That's one of the things that kind of made me skeptical about Andrew Raym once he announced he was doing a commitment video. If you're telling me that the hometown hero, Jordan Birch in Columbia, has all of a sudden gone quiet there, I take that as a very good piece of news. It's only circumstantial evidence, so I don't do anything with it, but I like it when hometown heroes go quiet because sometimes those guys don't like talking about the fact that they may be going to play for somewhere that folks in Columbia don't like.
Yeah, this is kind of reminds you a lot like the Zach Pickens recruitment of a year ago. Jordan Birch is a mega 5-star, a homegrown product in the state of South Carolina. Yet he doesn't do a lot of interviews, doesn't do a lot of media. I wouldn't say sheltered, but just planned or target media. And you also hear a lot of times that his mother is also plays a very big role in his recruitment, much like Zach Pickens of a year ago.
Let's see our next name, top targets for the class of 2020 after Jordan Birch. Andrew Raym is still on there as it stands right now. Raym is still an open recruitment. We may get some news on that, really at any point in time now, I guess, between now and the end of the week. We talked Raym off the top of the show. You want to give us a brief recap for the folks who are just joining us and people throughout the show are just joining us?
So with Raym here, he's number 6 because I left him there because I think he's the best possible offensive lineman left for Georgia in the 2020 class. I think Cedric Von Prawn is also a monster, a really great offensive lineman. I think he's the number 106 overall prospect. But with Raym, I'm going to tell you this right now, even if he commits A or B to either direction, I don't think that sucker's done. I think that will be a continued contested recruitment throughout the rest of the way because reminder, Georgia wants to sign the best 24 players, 23 players it possibly can this cycle. It's not going to go digging down the well to find others. It's going to try to work the ones up at the top of the board that it did not get. So Andrew Raym picks Oklahoma. If Andrew Raym picks Georgia later today, you're still going to see that name as part of the top targets for quite some time.
That is an interesting thing to hear from Jeff Sintel. Next name on the list, top targets for the class of 2020. It's the other offensive lineman, Cedric Von Prawn, out of New Orleans. And is there anything new to offer on Van Prawn?
So here's what you hear about Von Prawn on the trail. He's very likely to be at Georgia that weekend for the big recruiting event in July. He has family in the state of Georgia as well. He might have even more family moving to the state of Georgia as well. And I think should that happen, that would kind of reverse that Louisiana mojo for you. If all of his folks in his inner circle are now leaving the state of Louisiana, I think that reduces the Bayou Bengal Tigers and their potential flip magic or their hole to kind of reel in a priority target in state there for Von Prawn. And the other thing about Von Prawn is Georgia, first SEC school to offer. I continually, when Cedric's name comes up, I hear him telling me this in my mind. I like Georgia because they love me, and I know I really like them a lot. Cedric knows he's a fit at Georgia, and Georgia wants him, and he's felt that way for quite some time.
Really great to think about there. Next name here, number 8 on our top targets for the class of 2020. It's Theo Johnson, the tight end out of Canada, and a guy that also last week seemingly put on a big show at the opening. You mentioned the tight ends collectively were really good, and Theo's right there in the middle of this discussion.
Yeah, Theo ran, he's a little lighter. He was about 224 at the opening. He's normally about 235, 240. But he clocked a 4.62, Brandon, on his 40. And his trainers, they're saying that he thinks he's 4.5 potential, low 4.5 potential. And astute observers of this list, I'm sure they're popping up on your feeds right now. They're going, Gilbert, Johnson. What's happening here?
Movement there for sure.
I mean, this is like talking about my man Brandon's Maserati in the parking lot here at Cox Media Group. And then you walk by and you see Michael Carvel's Testarossa. And then you see my friend Connor Riley, the young kid, the hip kid, with a Tesla. And you're like, I can't really compare all these vehicles from these Dog Nation employees. They're all really, really good, and that's why you look at these tight ends right now.
J.J. McMillan in the Facebook comment section is bringing up that very point about Darnell Washington seemingly dropping down a bit in comparison to Theo Johnson. Is Washington the next name on the list? Let's see. Moving on to name number 9. Yes, it is Darnell Washington. Last week, Gilbert told you that he'd be okay playing in college with Washington. Is it really possible? I'm skeptical. Is it really possible that Georgia could pull a Washington and a Gilbert for the class of 2020, or a Washington and a Johnson, or a Theo and a Rick Gilbert? Can Georgia get 2 of these 3 tight ends for this class?
Yes, I think so. I think it's a likely possibility here. If we had our great weather map back here, I would put a big rosy sun, maybe rainbow in Brandon's eyes behind there. I think Georgia, and the way Todd Hartley recruits these young men, are going to get a couple of this 4-pack of tight ends they really like. And things to think about. Rick Gilbert told us that he has been talking with Darnell Washington already, and they're talking about the fact of going to the same school and playing together. Okay, which schools do they have in common? Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee. Those are all schools that they have in common that are chasing them. And I do believe that's why I rate them. And this is like, the differences between a polar bear's toenails, maybe this much. But I do now have Theo Johnson because of his athletic ability, his catch radius, everything else he brings to the table. I now have slightly moved him ahead of Darnell Washington in my mind.
Name number 10 on the list. Let's see who this is. I honestly don't know what this is going to be. Number 10 on the list. It is a running back. First time in our top 10 for the young man out of Callaway High School in Hogansville, Georgia, Tank Bigsby. Is this also opening related?
Yeah, because I think Tank Bigsby had to clock well and at a good weight where he could kind of move out of that scat back. Nothing against James Cook, but the guy that can't run between the tackles, the guy that can't take 15 SEC carries per game on the regular, even in Georgia's rotation. I think the fact that he ran a 4.55 will increase the volume on his recruiting interest a whole lot. Other schools that were wondering about that time now have a verified time. Tank's always had the film. Now he's got a ringing endorsement from Kendall Milton as well as a dude he would like to play with. One more thing, though. What would surprise me, and you know your audience very well, Brandon, there was a huge appetite for Tank Bigsby news. And really, this was the first extended story I've written about Tank Bigsby because I just didn't know where he fit into the matrix there for Georgia with guys like Marshawn Lloyd, Seth McGowan, DeMarcus Bowman, Zachary Evans, yada, 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 Kendall Milton, a lot of guys. Now I think Tank Bigsby, high school film, testing, maybe even a familiarity and a comfort fit there with a potential running mate in Kendall Milton. That kettle pot is starting to get a lot hot.
That's really interesting to see. I want to ask you about Bigsby, but let me transition to our names that just missed out on top 10 consideration, kind of our runners-up for now, if you will, to kind of lead into that Bigsby question. You see Xavier Alford on here for the first time. Justin Flo still on the list, but never really cracking the top 10. An offensive lineman, Chad Lindbergh, is on here. And that's kind of a new name, given what might or might not happen with Andrew Raym. Marshawn Lloyd is on here. It's Lloyd I want to ask you about, because at this point in time, I think Evans is kind of trending back towards the Texas schools, if I had to guess. Why do you rank Bigsby on the list ahead of Lloyd? As you said, a lot of Georgia fans, that's what they want to see. but why is Bigsby ahead of Lloyd in your mind right now?
I just kind of feel that Georgia is ratcheting up the interest, and maybe the fit there is becoming a little bit cozier there for Bigsby as well.
Even though Marshawn Lloyd was apparently caught on video last week flirting with saying "Go Dogs" instead of "Go Gamecocks."
Well, he was. I think Kendall Milton was the guy that was maybe
interviewing,
streaming along the interview. Guys get funny with all that stuff. They want to kind of play the theatrics and everything else.
Fair enough.
I kind of think the possibilities for Marshawn Lloyd are maybe retaining the South Carolina commitment. And see, here's the big thing. I think Marshawn Lloyd, and credit guys like Brian McClendon and Thomas Brown for recruiting him. He could go with his talent and skill set and be on the Rushmore of running backs at South Carolina. He could be one of the top 3 or 4 backs. He could play immediately. Well, at Georgia,
what is the Rushmore of South Carolina backs right now? Is Deuce Staley on that thing?
I would say it would be
George Rogers, clearly.
George Rogers, Marcus Lattimore, Deuce Staley, and maybe a guy like
Brandon Bennett,
Mike Davis, perhaps somebody like that.
Not exactly the most Rushmore-iest Rushmore I've ever
Well,
heard.
and with Georgia, it can be hard to crack the Rushmore of the 90s or the Rushmore of the last 15 years. I mean, you got to get.
Generally speaking, Georgia's the place you come to rush less.
Rush less. I like that, Brandon. Very clever, very snappy.
I do this for a living.
I think that Lloyd's possibility arcs are maybe more. The flip potential might be maybe more back home, Penn State, that type of area, Maryland, that type of area, as much as it would be. And folks, Zachary Evans has dropped down the list simply because that thing is going to be a briar patch with stingers and bumblebees about that long for somebody to go wade through there and pull him out of Texas.
Yeah.
I think right now Tank Bigsby and even a Marshawn Lloyd would probably show an astute research staff like the one at Georgia that, man, there's not enough difference here to just go wade through those trees and try to pull Zachary Evans out and potentially lose a guy like a Tank Bigsby to Auburn or South Carolina or a Marshawn Lloyd, much like Trey Saunders last year.
I will say, speaking as a fan here, I'm a little less interested in Zachary Evans than I used to be. A little less interested. A little more interested in Marshawn Lloyd, a little more interested in Tank Bigsby, a little less interested in Zachary Evans, but that's just speaking as a fan.
Another thing to think about here, if everybody wants to fit to prototypes, well, Bigsby's now 6 feet, 213, 214. I think Zachary Evans is about 5'11 and a half, 200. So you're seeing a different type body there with still some very good speed there for Tank Bigsby.
One thing real quickly here, Hannibal Barkis in our Facebook comment section, who's a man after my own heart because he's got the old Cobra G.I. Joe Nemesis logo as his Facebook profile picture, says if Georgia does not get Tank Bigsby, it will regret it. And I think regret's an interesting word. You don't want to pass on an in-state running back, have that guy go and be a great player somewhere. That is the kind of thing that you live to regret. So if Emory lights the world on fire for LSU this year, it's just kind of what it is. But if Bigsby goes to some school like, say, Auburn or South Carolina, he becomes a big-time great for a program like that. That's not just a loss, it's an embarrassing loss.
Let's talk a little bit more about Tank, because I know there's an appetite here for it. And I'm going to try to condense this on a shot clock, Brandon. So things to think about there in your scenario. If he goes to South Carolina, I think he's the type of back that will average 4.5 yards per carry for his career. Same thing for Auburn. Something to think about with Auburn is he has two former teammates that will be there as well. Tate Johnson, I think, who's a senior this year, along with Bigsby, but also Keandre Jones. Those guys are recruiting him to join them on the family, on the plane at Auburn. I think he would do that, 4.5 yards per carry there as well. If he goes to Georgia, he's going to play in much bigger games. He's going to average 6.5 yards per carry behind that great wall.
Hey, really quickly here, y'all know last week I was not here as a part of Before the Hedges presented by Kroger. I was on vacation, driving to the beach and then coming back. And let me tell you something, I got 2 young kids. There is nothing more when you've got young kids that you want to do more than keep them satisfied while they're in the car. Well, Kroger's making this really easy for you right now because nothing hushes your kids up more than just a big old thing of candy. Well, how about these deals from Kroger right now? 10 for $10 Swedish Fish or Sour Patch, 2 for $3 Lifesaver Gummies, 2 for $7 Hershey Miniatures. Not for nothing, that sounds like a good deal for me right there. Just gonna toss those things in the back, and if the kids get noisy, they start slapping each other a little bit, just toss some candy back there. They'll kind of calm them down. You can go sailing right on the road, wherever your summer travels take you here. Great stuff from your local Atlanta Kroger. I hope you'll check that out.
Is that a short-term loss, short-term win, long-term game when you sugar them up a little bit?
I got no problem with that.
Got you one thing. Sour Patch Kids, you're going to read about that with a major Georgia target coming up shortly on Dog Nation.
That's a nice thing there. All right. Well, speaking of major Georgia targets, one of those would certainly seem to be 4-star linebacker Noah Sewell, a big-time climber, on our list of top targets for this week, and a young man who has a very interesting perspective on where his recruitment goes from here. Jeff Sintel had a chance to speak to Noah last week in Frisco, Texas. This is a fast-growing, not just target for Georgia, but fan favorite among UGA fans, it would seem. And let's learn more about Sewell right now.
Were you always the kid that was running around and active? But I bet weight rules kind of bugged you growing up in football.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, growing up, I mean, they had like a weight rule. It's called an X-Man. Like, if you weighted over a certain amount, you become a lineman, and I really hated it. And like right when I got to high school, I just loved it because I started playing my dream position.
How many brothers?
I have 3.
All 3 are in college football right now?
Yes.
One's at Oregon, one's at
Utah and Nevada Reno.
So this is different for every dude. Why do you play football? So you play with a cauldron of energy, it seems to me, is limitless. Where does that come from? What motivates you?
It's just those 2 standing right there. My mom and my dad, they really put a lot of time and sweat and tears into helping me achieve my dream. And it's just my dream to give back to them what they gave to me all those years.
Where did it start with Georgia? Can you put me on the starting line when you started really to consider Georgia?
When they came out to Orem, I mean, it's really far away. It's like right when I saw Coach Lanning and Coach Schumann come out to Orem, that just really surprised me. And like that really stood out to me. Like they really got out the way just to come to see me.
What was their message? They must have said something that worked, right?
I mean, they're really cool guys. All of the message when they come out to my place, Orem, is just come out and feel for the place.
What do you think about Georgia right now? What are your thoughts about it?
I really like it. It's really a brotherhood in the linebacker room. They're all comfortable with each other. I mean, every activity they do, they bring everybody, even the walk-ons.
You know, I've been covering the SEC for a while, and no Alabama players, no Polynesian players came to Alabama really until Tua was there. And Georgia really doesn't have a Polynesian player right now. You could potentially be the first. Is that something that you look at or is it?
Yeah, a little bit, like just trying to get more Polynesians out east. I mean, you rarely hear. There's one at LSU, Brandon Fehoko, and then just a new one, Siaki Apu, that just committed to LSU. I mean, they're really changing the game out here. They're really setting a platform for us Polynesian boys to really succeed on.
Who are the schools that are really in it for you right now? If we had to legitimately say it's A through X or whatever.
I'm not really going to say it. I'm just going to give you a date. July 28th, my dad's birthday, I'm dropping in the top 8.
Top 8? Is there a chance Georgia makes the top 8?
I was going to say stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
If they did make your top 8, what would be the big reason why?
Just how comfortable I was with the players. I mean, the first day I got out there, I just hung out with the players. I hung out with Tresman, Nakobe, and Tay. I mean, they really told me, they just took me under their wings and they just showed me the routes.
Is there you mentioned your father, obviously, been a great
yes.
for all your brothers. Specifically for you, how has he helped you on this path?
I mean, he really took me going through my brother's recruiting process, he really took me on these trips to see firsthand, to ride in the passenger seat, just to see what I want from my process and what needs to be done. So yeah, he really helped me with that.
So July 28th is a top 8. Are you going to go down to a top 5? Do you have any idea?
Hopefully I go from a top 8 to a top 5 during almost, I hope I could drop it down during my 5th game and then hopefully commit by the end of the season.
End of your high school season?
Because I have the option to graduate early and be an early enrollee.
You want to do that?
Yeah, that's an option.
How do you think you'd fit into that inside linebacker room at Georgia? You're kind of a combo of a lot of guys they have. Nobody has your size, of course.
Yeah. They told me they can use me in various ways, off the edge, up the middle, covering space. I really like what they said about what they could use me as.
If I look on your highlight tape, what do you think is the best player in your highlight tape? Is there one that you're like, man, that might be my favorite, or that might?
I mean, my hurdle. My hurdle, that just really shows that I'm really elusive and I really can do unbelievable things.
Where in the Jiminy Christmas are you able to field punts with one hand by catching it? Do you practice that, or do you just go, let's see if I can do that?
I mean, as kids, me and my brothers, we go in the backyard, we just fool around. We see one-handed catches on the social media everywhere. We just try to imitate that.
Are you the little brother?
Yeah.
Have they always treated you like the run or something like that?
They
tough, right?
Yeah, they made it tough for me, but I'm glad that I went through that process because they shaped me into the man I'm going to be.
You could enroll early? Or is that up in the air, or what do you want to do?
Right now my mind is set on just having the option to. I'm on track to, but I'm just like, it's just there.
Does the Georgia coaches tell you that you could play early there? Do they think that you can get into that room and get some already?
Everyone can play, but I mean, nothing is set. They just said you have the opportunity to come in, show out, and have the opportunity to play.
You're going to take your officials during your season. Have you taken any officials yet?
I'm trying to save that for like game day experiences, so I can get a real feel of it.
Big games.
Yeah.
So with this, you're an inside backer, man. You're a much better player when pads come on and you can get an A gap and B gap. You're not supposed to be good at this. Like, is this work for you, or is this still fun for you as part of football?
It's both work and fun. I mean, the work side of it, I just have to practice getting to my drops, working on my hips and flipping, and it's just fun because I get to meet new people and just make connections.
What do you want to study?
I don't know yet.
You do have a brother at Oregon, though, right?
Yes.
Is that I'm going to do my own thing and do my own path?
I mean, he told me to just try to do my own thing and just figure out what's best for me.
What do you think about SEC football?
That's big boy football. They really got big boys up front, and it'll be challenging most of it. Yeah.
Has Coach Smart talked to you yet at all? What was the message from Coach Smart on your video?
Not really with football, just as a person. He just try to build my character, and that's what I really like.
Coolest thing you've done so far? How does this rank? Was this a good work week for you?
Oh yeah, this was a good work. I really need to come out, and I got broken twice, 2 days ago, and yesterday I got broken. But it was good for me because it really got me going. That's all I really needed.
How do you get this fast? Do you have a regimen?
Not really. I have a trainer that helps the football team. We do speed work and stuff.
When people watch you play for the first time, what do you hope they walk away from?
I really hope they see what I truly am. I'm a true linebacker, and I hope they see that.
Noah, thank you for taking the time. Nice to meet you.
For some additional context on Sewell, one of the interesting biographical facets for Sewell is that he is of Polynesian descent, while Pacific Islanders are a big part of the college football story kind of west of the Mississippi, on the West Coast and the Pac-12 in particular, and really to a certain extent in the SEC at places like Alabama and LSU, that has not been a big part of the Georgia roster thus far. He would, I believe, be the only Polynesian player on the Georgia roster, but as Gabriel Sewell, Noah's father, told you, Jeff, that's not the kind of thing that would lead the Sewells to not want to come to Athens and be at UGA. In fact, here is what Gabriel Sewell said about that very point.
That's not an issue for him. It's not an issue for us. I mean, we've always tried to encourage our kids to get out of their comfort zone, be uncomfortable, because I believe that's where true progress always happens when you're tested, so to speak. And like I said, he'd be okay anywhere he went, and we'd be okay with it. There's a lot of people who have him pegged to go to Oregon, and even though they're in his, they're high on his board, we keep telling him, at the end of the day, your brothers will be brothers, no matter what logo's on the side of your helmet. So you do what's best for you. You make that decision or choice. You make your choice based on what you believe is best for you. I think success is predicated on you being happy where you're at and doing what you're doing where you're at.
So really good stuff there from Gabriel Sewell, the father of Noah Sewell, on that very topic, that the issue of background not going to be the kind of thing that would keep Noah from wanting to come to UGA.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. That was kind of like a reporter's task right there to kind of talk about, to kind of discuss, because I've heard in the past that other Polynesians have been like, well, I like Georgia, but there's not any guys like me on the roster yet. And it seemed like other schools that had a lot, and that might have been an edge, especially for them to come out east. But there's a story we just dropped on Dog Nation. Kind of tells a little bit more about some more of those words from Gabriel Sewell regarding his son. And there's a funny story about the state of Alaska and being airdropped and what he could potentially do with that. And one thing I want to tell you about that video, and you know me, I'm a reporter by trade, but I try to also dabble in the multimedia arts a little bit. And this guy is always moving, Brandon. It'd be like you doing a show sort of like that. He's bobbing and weaving.
Some would say that's kind of the way I do a show.
And he's all over the place. And when you got the equipment that I do, it's auto-focusing on every one of his moves. So when he moves off a line or moves off a spot, it's constantly auto-focusing because he was just still he's just a big ball of energy, man. And you look at Sewell, his dad told me some very interesting things about where Georgia stands. Is this a real thing? And
yeah, let me let folks hear that piece of audio here in terms of the feeling that the Sewells seem to have about UGA. This is apparently on their end a recruitment and an interest in UGA they're taking very seriously. Here's more of Gabriel Sewell on that very point.
He's going to make his decision based on field. And although academics is important to him, it's going to be about the people in the building where those people are taking that program and how well of a ride he's going to go on.
He said he will go top 8. He may go top 5. He wants to announce before the end of his senior year. Is Georgia moving up that board? Are they becoming up there? How would you just rate them without?
No, I think, well, as of right now, he's only locked in 3 official visits, and Georgia's one of them. Wow. So, I mean, I've advised him we're not going to use an official visit on someone who's not going to be content. I don't think that's respectful to the program, to the coaches, and to yourself, because it's not a good way to use your time. I mean, you could actually be using that time to, looking into something that you're really interested in. So as far as that question, yeah, Georgia's pretty up there for him.
I said this before, that Noah Sewell is becoming a pretty big fan favorite because he's a big guy who runs incredibly fast, and the level of affection that Georgia fans seem to have for him, I would say that's requited at this moment. I would say that Noah seems to like UGA a pretty good bit too, based on those words there from Gabriel Sewell, his father.
Ascending target really got interesting when Georgia, Dan Lanning and Glenn Schumann both went out there to Orem, Utah to check him out for spring ball and spring practice. Man, I'm going to keep saying this. This is a unique player. Here's what's going to happen with his recruitment. This will be a recruitment based on feel. Noah Sewell will drive the bus. He's earned the right within his family to make his own mark. He could go in a different walk aside from his brother's past. He's got one brother at Nevada, one brother at Utah, one brother at Oregon, starting left tackle for Utah. Actually, the guy that's going to protect Justin Herbert's blind side, but he's going to make his decision, and it's really going to come down to feel. And what I mean by feel is it's going to be the feeling in the room, the inside linebacker room, and around the program, which will drive the bus on his decision.
Kroger's biggest sale of the season is upcoming on patio sets, grills, summer housewares, toys, and sporting goods. You can save up to 50% off, so you got to hurry up and get to your local Kroger very soon to take advantage of all of that. All right, we do this every week at this time. A lot of the recruiting news that we haven't gotten to yet, we kind of stuff it all in one place. We like to call it our online chatter. Let's take a look at a few of these things, including Jalen Kimber, the UGA commit. Now, the defensive backs that get a lot of attention sometimes are not so much Kimber. Sometimes it's an uncommitted prospect like Keely Ringo. But when you see the numbers that Jalen Kimber put up last week, you were left with a really impressive showing of just how fast Kimber really is, are you not?
Yeah, so Kimber maybe a little light at 165, but he set a lot of PRs. The 42 vert was a PR. Right at there, the agility was a 4.02, 4.44. I think he was number 4 in the country out at the opening, and he's got a lot of skills, Brandon. You want to diffuse the slot receiver, especially the elite slot receiver at these 7-on-7 camps, and that's where Kimber was. He was working the insides and the top thirds and the middle thirds, because that's where a lot of teams like to make their hay in the 7-on-7 format.
Kimber also had a bit of an announcement this week. He's made his pledge to one of the All-American games. He's going to be in San Antonio for the game televised on NBC later on.
Yeah, it's now the All-American Bowl, not the Army Bowl. And Georgia just has a history of getting a lot of dudes in that event. And for him, this guy was only, mere exits away. He grew up in Arlington. He's in Arlington, and he was another guy that will enroll early as well. But he's staying in Texas to go to his All-American Bowl, and then he's going to enroll early at Georgia.
There you go. Speaking of the Texas, that's where it was last week for the opening, and a pretty impressive showing from some of the offensive and defensive linemen. One of the guys was on hand for that, was nice enough to share some of the numbers that come out of this. The top 10 performers there. Jeff, what can you tell us about this list? First of all, the brother of Azeez Ojulari does well here. And how about the name of the 2021 young man, Donovan Jackson, apparently one of the real stories from last week.
Yeah, great story here. But Ronnie Torres runs the scouting. He's the personnel director, I guess, for the opening right there. And Brandon, I want to take your eyes down to number 5 on that list. We have a 6'6", 322-pound. We can't really call him Tater Tot anymore unless we're like his mother or something like that. Tate Ratledge with a 102.12.
Good for him.
Folks, very, very rare to see an offensive tackle crack the 100 digits, the triple digits when it comes to those measures at this combine testing. And it's also 5.30 in the 40, 25-inch vertical at 322 pounds. He ran the short shuttle in 4.68.
Good for him.
Which is moving, and Tate Ratledge really helped himself a lot.
Also beat Brian Brzee head-to-head a couple times, I'm led to believe.
A lot of times.
Yeah, it's nice to see. I mentioned the 2021 offensive lineman Donovan Jackson. He's also come out with the list of finalists here. This, I'm guessing, is a name we're going to be talking about a lot in the months ahead, especially January on, it would seem.
Yeah, folks, we put people like to see this stuff, I think, but we put a way too early top 2021 targets list in the specific next to commit to the G 2021 thread in that Dog Nation forum. Donovan Jackson's name, I believe, was number 3 on the list. He could be a guard, he could be a tackle. Folks, Donovan Jackson was named and rated the top offensive lineman at the opening last week in Texas. He qualified as a guard, worked at both guard and tackle, diffused everybody, including one Corey Foreman, and he earned that honor and those laurels ahead of guys like Tate Ratledge.
By the way, I would say that if you looked at that list of finalists, you saw both Northwestern and LSU on there. I think this is the first time anyone's ever considered going to either Northwestern or LSU. Northwestern, one of the prestigious academic universities in America. LSU, essentially the 13th grade. This is quite a movement to see both LSU and Northwestern considered here.
Let me share a little on Donovan Jackson. He goes to Episcopal School in the Houston metro area. This is a place where Board of Trustees for Texas and Texas A&M send their kids. It's very much like a Pace or a Lovett or a Westminster in the Atlanta setting for folks that know those schools really well. Walker Little, who's at Stanford, went to Episcopal. He's still, Marvin Wilson, you remember that name?
Yeah, sure.
Now at Florida State. He's still around that campus. He was there working. He actually got a chance to work with Donovan Jackson during the opening last week as a counselor. Andrew Thomas was one of those as well. I think Georgia has placed itself very well there with Donovan Jackson, but I would say the same equally about Stanford.
All right, so let me also mention, speaking of the class of 2021, quarterback Caleb Williams was also seen on social media as of late, and much the same way Jeff's pointing out Keely Ringo wearing what appeared to be a Georgia backpack. How about Caleb Williams showing off what is obviously a Georgia shirt here? What does that mean for you with Caleb Williams here?
So Caleb Williams, we talked about the early top targets list for 2021 in that thread on the forum. Caleb Williams is number 1 on the list for the 2021 targets, at least in my book. And that Twitter header. You remember that Twitter header where it was Georgia coming out of his visit recently? Still the Twitter header for one young Caleb Williams. We're going to be reading a lot about him shortly.
Well, I'll stay on the topic of 2021 for a moment. Latrell Neville, a wide receiver for the class of 2021. He's also got some finalists out there. Georgia shows up for Latrell Neville here as well. Any news you want to report on Mr. Neville?
Yeah, I don't want to give away all my good stuff on this show, but Neville, not all of it. Neville got interested in Georgia because of Akiola Ogunbi. And he was like, man, Georgia.
Somehow that doesn't seem like great news.
No, but this is the point. Again, you're jumping the gun for me. Akiola Ogunbi was telling me, you got to get to Georgia. And then he got to Georgia, and Neville's like, man, you're right. I love this place. You're right. And Akiola was like, yeah, I told you so. Obviously, the flip happens. And then I talked to Mr. Neville and like, hey, Akiola, your guy, if he says, man, I love Georgia. Georgia's enough for me. That just got me started on Georgia, and that's not going to change.
We saw some social media evidence of the day, speaking of wide receivers, of current Georgia wide receiver Karis Jackson working out with our good friend, the former Georgia great Terrence Edwards. Well, another guy apparently taking advantage of Terrence Edwards' services is current UJ commit Justin Robinson. I'm going to show you a little bit of this video here as our online chatter continues. I like this from Robinson's mom, who kind of mentions Terrence Edwards there. You like to see the work going on here, right?
Yeah, so big body, that's one of those guys. Folks, this was the number 1 target for Georgia on the receiver board this year. Just one season of high school football at Eagles Landing so far. Look at that big body, look at that catch radius, and he's doing that both at the indoor practice facility and also the Woodruff practice fields at Georgia.
Yeah, you like to see that. One more little video I want to show you here as part of our online chatter. I did this on Dog Nation Daily as well. For those of you who listen to the podcast, you may be seeing this now for the first time. How about Ryan Trouble Davis? Now, this has been kind of an online phenomenon as of late. The kind of karate kick style, knock the bottle cap off the bottle. Pretty good work here from not just Davis with his kick, although you like to see that, and what looks to be pretty healthy body that enables him to do that after being injured during spring practice. But I'm impressed by the camera work here. You really get the rotations of the bottle cap as it exits this energy drink bottle here. That's a pretty good job by Ryan Trouble Davis. What are you laughing about?
You're so funny with your product placements. And
I'm not giving free advertising to anybody. You may have seen the bottle, but I'm not saying the name.
Are you going to say flashy athletic shoes with an air cushion at the same time? What about the guy holding it with a big size 13 coming at his knuckles?
Yeah, that's a
right
little
there.
bravery as well.
I'm left with this possibility. Brandon, if we got you talking as fast as you can around this Kroger bottle cap right here.
Could I talk it off?
Could you talk that thing off? Could you spin that thing off its axis?
Hold that up there for a minute. Let me see if I can kick that thing
Oh,
off.
no, we're not going to see that. I don't need workers' comp. I got to use these hands.
All right, so we're now essentially, going into our third hour of Before the Hedges presented by Kroger here, but this is the time of the show that we love, a chance to give the floor over to Jeff and let Jeff share with us his weekly six-pack. So, Jeff, some trivia stuff. It is on the way for you, sir.
Okay, we're going to put this Before the Hedges edition into sport mode,
Yeah.
going down the road, and we're going to dispense with all pleasantries, Brandon.
Too late.
I know you are on, just coming off a vacation.
I am. I'm tanned, rested, and ready.
So tan, rested, and ready. I know.
By the way, Connor Riley, our producer here, has predicted I'm not going to get any of these right today. I think he said 1 for 6 maybe. So that's not exactly making me feel all that excited about doing these.
Tan, rested, and ready, but we might talk about it. Now, I'm giving you one free space on this one. I think you'll get one of these right, but this is in classic Seinfeld genre here. Remember that No Soup for You episode that's famous?
Sure.
Brandon Adams and the rest of our Dog Nation family here. You get no multiple choice for you today.
Oh, wow.
You're getting open-ended, show me what you got questions.
Wow.
Number one. What is the Georgia recruiting significance of today's date?
If you ask me what today's date is, I couldn't even tell you that. Today is July the 10th, 11th, 10th, something like that. I don't have the foggiest clue. Let me see if somebody knows. I don't have the foggiest clue.
So for the record, Connor, he has no clue. There is no answer here.
Hold on. Let me see if somebody knows. Brian McPhail has said it's the 10th, so thanks for that.
He knows
Green
the date.
Soldier, who says, let me think about that. Yeah, Green, I'm kind of right there with you. July the 10th, I really don't know. I know June 27th, Zamir White's mom's birthday, Keely Ringo's birthday. Is it Andrew Thomas's commitment date? Did he commit on July the 10th? 2016?
2016. Let's collect a few more answers.
Well, I mean, the Andrew Thomas on the screen, I would think that's probably got something to do with the answer.
So that was I was wondering if Brandon got help from our viewing audience, or rather he got the B-roll on the camera. Brandon, I cannot give you credit for that one because your first and second reads on that question were zero. What are we giving him?
Nor do I see credit. Yeah, I don't see credit for that.
Ultimate arbiter, Connor behind the glass. Andrew Thomas chose Georgia at the Nike opening finals back on July the 10th of 2016.
So it's officially that date. We're the anniversary.
Anniversary.
How about
3 years.
that? That's I'll allow that. I'll allow that.
Thank you. And I know a lot of folks, focus on Zamir, which is a date that will live on in Dog Nation.
That was just easier for me to remember, just because it was it had been announced as June 27th for such a long time.
But young Andrew Thomas, I mean, we're talking about a top 10 pick here, and maybe in the Kirby Smart era, if you want to talk about it, the most significant on-field recruit thus far.
I was bracing for heinous questions. Actually, I don't mind that question. That's pretty good.
Number 2. Which UGA recruitment waiting day is considered by most, we're on Andrew Raym commitment telethon time right now, is considered by most who follow such things to be the most drawn out in recent memory?
I'm assuming you're going to say Demetrius Robertson here?
Let me phrase the question.
Went to May.
Maybe not months, but the actual day of. Which one took forever?
Oh, you mean Isaiah Wilson?
Is that your answer?
Yeah, I don't know. Is that the long ceremony?
Did we flash out a graphic of Isaiah Wilson running across in a Santa suit or anything like that yet?
The Isaiah Wilson Christmas ceremony from the fancy private school he went to. It's got. If we're talking about the day of, it's got to be the Wilson deal. There's also the basketball player. I remember Tony Parker, not the former Spur, but the guy that went to UCLA, and I'm not even sure what happened to him after that. That one was a long one too. Matt Talley says Roquan Smith was a little bit drawn out as well, but that would end up working out well. So we'll take a little drama when it leads to Roquan coming to Georgia winning the Buckus Award.
Yeah, we wouldn't call that drawn out. I think most folks would call that most invested recruitment or something like that.
Although I don't think that Roquan, I was looking at this the other day, I don't think he ever signed a letter of intent, so it was a little bit drawn out.
Yeah, he was a guy that was just going to show up where he was going to show up.
James Crump says Isaiah Wilson. I'm assuming.
I was looking for some symmetry with today with Andrew Raym and how it would probably drag out over the course of our show.
All right, that's fine.
Connor, you're the ultimate arbiter. Are you going to give Brandon credit on that
one? What I think would have been better is to ask actual trivia questions about the ceremony, like what Christmas song did that dude play on his guitar?
You remember that?
Oh, actually, I'll give you one. This is only like partial a trivia question. A child of a member of a famous rock band went to that same school at the same time Isaiah Wilson did. I'm almost 100% sure I'm right about this.
Bon Jovi?
I think it was, right?
I think I remember.
I think that was. So that would have been a good one.
So that whole chances for Alabama and chances for Michigan with all those crystal balls, they were living on a prayer right there with.
Okay, that's fine.
With Isaiah Wilson.
Good job.
So far, Brandon, you got 1 for 2. Let's move on to number 3. Again, folks, if you're just joining us, this is a no multiple choice questions for you edition of the Before the Hedges six-pack.
We're also like an hour and 10 minutes into this thing by now.
All right, number 3. Which current Georgia commit did so in the face of all the online chatter and crystal balls pointing in a decidedly different direction?
Current Georgia commit. Boy, you'd think it'd be easy to remember. Would have been Kyle Sherman. Carson Beck. Is that right? Carson Beck?
Help from the home audience?
Now there was a late flurry of picks for Beck to Georgia right before he picked. But if you want to go back to 10 days before he picked, I don't know if those would have been there.
So, Brandon, I'm going to go ahead and share the answer because I know you love pace and I know you love these warm, happy memories.
Carson Beck's probably not the right answer. That's not a bad answer. If you want to go 10 days before he picked Georgia, there was not a lot of online predictions that connected him to Georgia.
Good sir, Carson Beck was the right answer.
Oh, there you go.
He chose Georgia despite 86% of those crystal balls saying, "Go Gators."
Yeah.
That might be the first time we've ever said that on the show.
That'd be the last time as well, at least out of my lips for sure.
So there you go, Carson Beck, 86%. That's not the crystal. And this is a little bit of teaching here, where sometimes those crystal balls aren't all as shiny as they seem to be.
Yeah, I've told this before because I am a person that kind of follows, just the stuff that's out there. If there's a flurry of balls that come in at one time, I pay attention to that. But if it's something like, I don't do crystal balls, but if I did, I'd fill one out 2 years ago and just forget that I did it. And that's what 86% of those probably are.
Somehow Florida was seen as the leader. Remember, he committed to Florida to play baseball as well. Number 4. So, Brandon, you've already got 2. I didn't think you were going to complete the task here. Which current Georgia commit also committed to the G in the face of more crystal balls pointing to Florida?
This would be Warren Brinson. It's got to be Brinson. I mean, the world thought Brinson was going to. You may say Jalen Carter as well, but if you're talking about short-term buzz before he committed, I'm going to say there was more buzz for Brinson to Florida than there was Jalen Carter.
That's a good guess, but I'm going to just share with you a little bit there where I don't know if Brinson was the big enough of a guy to generate a lot of crystal ball chatter. Actually, when we look at the record, he had 5 crystal ball picks.
Are you saying it's Carter?
No, it was not even Carter. There's another name out there.
Oh, not Marcus Rose. People didn't think Rose was going to Florida.
It's another Florida.
Some doofus Florida fans probably did, but
doofus Florida fans. You'll probably hear that again on this show sometime throughout the next week.
Not Roseby, not Carter, not Beck, not Brinson. Oh, Robert Barnes. Is Joshua Braun?
Joshua Braun.
Okay,
that's
actually a pretty good one. Anthony White had that one as well. That's a pretty good one.
Reflects that 50% have reflected that the Gators' top offensive lineman target was going to choose.
I feel like Warren Brinson's the right answer there.
I feel like Warren Brinson will be around.
What do you think, Connor? You don't think so? I feel like I lived through that era. But a lot of people are saying Braun, though. But that's just because they know it's the right answer now.
Moving along, number 5. Which current Georgia player chose the Bulldogs despite 100% of those crystal balls pointing to him choosing a Big Ten school.
Uh,
They still point that way.
oh, is this Ohio State with Sherman? Surely not. Surely not.
Can we see that question one more time, my good man? Which current Georgia player?
Georgia player. Georgia player. 100% of the crystal ball. Oh, Otis Reese.
Otis Reese.
I'm saying Otis Reese. I'm feeling pretty good about my answer.
Pointing to a Big Ten school.
I'm saying Otis Reese. I'm feeling good about my answer.
I'm going to tell you about this answer. There were 13 crystal balls that pointed to a Big Ten school, and we're not talking Otis Reese on this.
Is it not Reese?
It's not Reese.
All right, just give me real quick. I want to see people's answers, but I don't want to I want to think of this for myself. Who current Georgia player? I'm actually surprised it's not Otis Reese.
73%.
Mathis?
73% of the
Dwan Mathis?
73% of the
Are
crystal
you
balls.
sure it's not Dwan Mathis? Because Logan Spence says it's Dwan Mathis.
I've got a better one for you, sir. This is 13 for 13 for another Big Ten school.
I don't know who it is then.
By the way, Otis Reese, 73% of the predictions came in late in a flurry for Georgia. So the crystal ball traffic reversed itself like you were talking about.
Those are cheap predictions. They are.
Those are like 3-foot putts for people.
Yeah.
The correct answer, and hey, what does he need right here?
Oh, Xavier Truss. Almost Penn State, is that right?
Freshman offensive tackle Xavier Truss.
Did you see that weird video of that guy that chose Penn State where painted the white? I mean, I'm not saying the kid's weird, but the video was bizarre. He painted the white and blue all over his face, was dancing. This is a strange video.
Truss.
Y'all should find this.
Folks, don't forget this name because I think he could be on maybe the 2 deep at Georgia at guard or tackle within a year. His body has rapidly changed. I think this time, maybe last May, he was 360, 365. He was down to 325, 330 at the opening. Now he's in Scott Sinclair's room where he's changing his body, much like Owen Condon did. Early steps, early months in the Georgia weight program.
Ooh, hold on. I'm sorry to interrupt. Sam Meldick, Cole Roster, Green Soldier. They all have a good name. How many crystal balls does Brenton Cox have to Ohio State? That's a pretty good name, y'all. That's a pretty good name. Boy, we're getting a lot of free plug to a competitor's website, too. But,
I thought you don't give away anything, man. No, hold on, though, folks. Their profile pages are free content. So
well, either way. How many crystal balls did Brenton Cox have to Ohio State?
I think, again, that was a late flurry of reversals where everybody figured out he wasn't going to go to Ohio State.
Let's see here.
96%
to Georgia. That's a lot of revisionist history right there, because there are a lot of people.
There are 24 crystal ballers that got into that one.
We
got one more.
Sam Watson, thanks for the help out on that. All right, one more question.
One more question, and this is what I thought was probably going to be Brandon's free space. So he'll end up with 3, I guess, Connor. If he gets
you act like I haven't been doing well with these questions. But I've been kind of on a pretty good run for the last couple months.
Free space because you're coming off of vacation, tan, rested, and ready, and there are no multiple choice answers for you to go through your science.
I feel like I've done just fine. I feel like I got one of these right that y'all got wrong.
This is for more of the viewing audience here than you right here, sir. Number 6, our final one of our 6-pack. Brandon Adams was asked in a pre-show meeting the following question. The Georgia roster can restore one player from the 2018 team to the team for the championship push this season. Who did he choose, dear viewer?
I don't think I have an official answer.
Talk about revisionist history. Revisionist history.
I don't think I had an official answer on this. I don't think I had.
I even let you spout out your answer twice, and then I came back to you, and I said, for the record.
No, I didn't have an official answer on this. Robert Reynolds says DeAndre Baker. That's a good enough answer as anything. Greg Baker says, what's BA's record today? What'd I get, 3 or 4?
Whoa, you know what I'm willing to do here, Connor? If he wants to keep that answer shrouded in secrecy, that means he has to give up his free space on this challenge.
I don't even know what you're talking about. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about.
I guess that's an answer that will remain.
Chris Branham says Lamont Gaillard. That would have been a good choice as well. I would
probably
Jamel Major mentions DeAndre Walker.
I would think Walker or Baker. Everybody needs a little bit more pass rush. I think those would be good answers. Baker, to me, Georgia needs an elite defense. If you can push Eric Stokes to guard somebody's number 2 receiver, I think that's a matchup in Georgia's favor. Baker, this seems like a layup answer as well, but don't overthink it, folks.
Yeah.
He was picked number 1 in the draft for a reason.
Hearing a lot of receiver talk on the YouTube. It's kind of funny to hear Sam Watson say Godwin, Green Soldier say Hardman. Somebody said Riley Ridley too. I don't see it. Oh yeah, Terrence Allen said Riley Ridley. So a lot of receiver talk over there on that other side. So really fun stuff. Speaking of comments, by the way, we're going to get ready to. What are you doing?
Inside joke.
Speaking of comments, by the way, we're going to get 5 minutes worth from you all. It's our hurry up as we go questions and comments as many as we can, and we'll give away a $50 Kroger. How about them groceries gift card before it's all said and done? Now, by the way, speaking of Kroger, you can download coupons starting today, which is to July 10th, as we learned a little earlier, or at Kroger.com, Kroger app, and get a chance to redeem them in stores on Friday and Saturday on Skinny Pop Popcorn, Igloo Lunch Sacks, a whole lot more. It's a great chance to download those coupons and start saving on those this weekend, so check that out at Kroger.com or on the Kroger app as well. All right, 5 minutes on the clock. As many questions and comments as we can get over the course of that time. I thought that Joel Moody had an interesting one from earlier. I wrote this down. If Raym commits to Oklahoma today, does Georgia have one waiting in the chamber?
One waiting in the chamber. Well, not tomorrow or right after.
Well, that's what he's asking.
I think the ones waiting in the chamber will come in July, late July.
So the answer is no, apparently, then. Brian McPhail, along that same topic, says, how many commits does UGA get in July?
I think the number that feels right to me right now at this time would be 2 to 3. I would say 2.
Anthony White says, will Georgia take another quarterback this recruiting class, even though they have Carson Beck committed currently? Thanks for all you guys do. Is there a chance that Georgia looks at 2 quarterbacks now?
Thanks for listening and watching and participating, but the answer there, sir, is a flat no.
Channing McDowell says, what time is Raym going to announce? Any update on that time you can give us?
I think Oklahoma time, when the whitewater rafting gets over with. I still don't think that decision has been released to the public yet.
But it has been made, you think?
Decision made?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he had to made. I mean, there's always the chance.
So in other words, he's not holding back because he's thinking about changing his mind one way or another.
No, because you don't have to change your mind. Really, you've got you can make simple edit and make 2 different endings to the video.
James Crump had a good question. Where did this question go? Sorry, James, I lost your question. My bad. Yeah, he says, how many linebackers is Georgia going to take in this class? You've got Sherman in the mix right now. Who else is there?
2. I think it's going to be Sherman and Sewell.
So just 2 total for the class. Jeff Ingram says, which running backs do we get?
Well, if you join us in the beginning of our program, we have we had the first time entry of Tank Bigsby into it right now, and I think with Georgia fans and Kendall Milton, because we're going to have part 2 of that conversation with Kendall Milton coming up. I think a lot of Georgia fans are invested in the Kendall Milton decision, and with good reason. And if you had to ask me right now who I think the backfield will be for 2020, I would think the backfield that Georgia would most likely get, I think that would be Milton and Bigsby.
Joel Moody says, this is a good question, what number's higher this season? Pickens touchdowns, Nolan Smith sacks. That's a great question. I'm going to say Nolan sacks. I think there's a chance Nolan could get 10.
I think both of them will be around 8, I think.
That'd be great.
I think both of them will get
8 would be more touchdowns than receivers had since Kirby Smart's been here.
7? No, Javon had 7, I think.
And 8 would be more than that.
Well, yeah, but I think 7-ish with Javon. I'm actually going to say Nolan Smith with more sacks.
Yeah, I think Nolan gets more. I think he can get 10. I think that anything close to that by Pickens, though, would be a fantastic year. Robert Reynolds, for the first time, we're hearing Nate McBride as the possibility of a tight end. We've heard fullback a lot. Tight end for Nate McBride. Does he become a tight end?
What world of Georgia Bizarro Mixelplick universe is you're going to have Walter Grant at
Well, hold on
back?
Now, Nate McBride's faster than these tight ends we're talking about right now.
Nate McBride is very fast.
I don't know if he can catch with the flip, but he's faster than these other guys.
He's not going to be running any stick routes, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, for sure. That's good. Let me go back down here and get some more on Facebook, then I'll go back over to YouTube. Bigger contributor this year, Jordan Perry says, Pickens or Blaylock?
Ooh, Pickens.
Dante Green says, how many tackles will Dean have? N'Kobe Dean.
Ooh, Georgia's tackle numbers aren't really that high. Even Roquan got like 105, I think.
Roquan had 95 as a sophomore, if you want.
Yeah.
And like a small portion of that as a freshman.
I think both Dean and Smith make the freshman All-American team this year. Not a really huge go break a limb pick there. I think Nakobe will have around 80, 85 tackles.
Cole Rossiter and others in our
70.
YouTube comment section talking about Bijan Robinson, the running back. Why don't we talk about him more?
That's the one Ohio State really, really likes. That's the one. Ohio State's recruiting has been Bijan Robinson and or Kendall Milton. That young man's from Arizona as well. And I think this is a casualty of Georgia just liking guys closer by, Bigsby, Bowman, McGowan, Milton, Lloyd. You can't go after all 8 with the same intensity. Georgia's only went after about 4 with the same intensity.
Dapper Dan says, could Georgia go for 3 tight ends? I'm going to add a caveat to the question now that it may be 1 fewer on the offensive line. Could they sign 3 tight ends?
Feasible to sign 3 tight ends, but I don't think they will sign those 3 tight ends that everybody wants, because everybody's loving this 3 tight ends thing, and Brandon's Montgomery Burns global domination of the recruiting, but those 3 tight ends are not going to all go to the same school.
Sam Watson, keeping the topic going of multiple quarterbacks, he's basically asking, is Carson back and then a 2021 name? Some people might assume it's the Caleb Williams, the young man from the Beltway area that we've mentioned before. Is that enough quarterbacks to find your next starting quarterback for years and come?
Yeah, I think the combination of Carson Beck and Caleb Williams, and I'll throw Dwan Mathis in there as well. Those 3 names will occupy the 2 deep at Georgia for the next 3 to 4 years.
All right, that's good stuff. I have no idea who to give the Kroger thing to.
I got 2, Brandon. One of these things, we're going to make some before the Hedges history here.
Oh.
That gentleman who threw out a 5-star question or a 5-star comment, I'm going to give it to a comment, of the guy that said, I've been watching Georgia football for 62 years, and they've never wanted to recruit as badly as Kendall Milton.
You gonna do that?
I would like that. Was that a YouTube comment or was that a
Facebook.
Facebook comment? We're going to find you like Liam Nielsen, and we're going to give that one away.
All right.
And Brandon, we did not give away one last week because we were in the airport in Dallas and we couldn't really put together a hurry up or everything else like that where we picked out a question. So I think it only seems fair to you guys out there that we also pull one out of the hurry up so no one's feelings are disenfranchised. What about that one about George Pickens and Nolan Smith? I think that's a quality offering
There's
from
Joe
our
Moody
hurry
on that one, so that's a good job.
Good job.
All right, so we'll do that. Jeff Sintel, very, very generous, benevolent. We certainly appreciate that from him. We'll see you next week here at this time for Before the Hedges presented by Kroger. Huge thanks to Kroger for making all of this possible. Jeff's got some really good stuff coming for you at dognation.com. In fact, he's been working on it for most of the show here today. But that's coming up at dognation.com, so you can check that out. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for Dog Nation Daily. We'll have a lot of fun there, and then breaking news as it happens as well. As they like to say, we'll be all over that as well. You'll have a great week. We'll see you next week, and then tomorrow morning for Dog Nation Daily. Have a good day, everybody.